Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 6 of the Hammer and Pickle podcast. It is July 6th, Wednesday, and we got some news to cover.
We do.
Yes. And today I'm going to start us off with the January 6th commission hearings that have been going on over the past couple weeks.
On the 6th episode of July 6th, we're talking about the January 6th committee hearing.
Six?
I don't know. It seems kind of demonic to me.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about some true demons in the form of the QAnon people that, of course, raided the Capitol
on January 6th.
January 6th, 2021. It's been over a year since that happened.
It's been a year and a half, actually,
yeah.
As of today.
I guess, yeah. Oh my god. It's crazy. It's been a while, but...
It's been a year and a half since democracy was almost brought to its knees by a bunch of nerdy neckbeards.
They tried. They did try because of one man who was on trial. Kind of. Not really. Nothing's going to come of it. It's more of like a public trial, I guess, for the public to see what really happened. Who knows if anything will come of this, but of course Donald Trump famously made comments and remarks in front of the Capitol building and subsequently on Twitter that incented a riot to form at the U.S. Capitol and led people to raid the Capitol building. And these people did have intentions of harming Congress people. They were looking for Mike Pence specifically because he was seen as a traitor for not certifying for certifying the electorates.
And weren't they also targeting AOC for some reason?
They probably were.
I think they went into her office and took pictures.
They were looking for her.
Office.
People had like zip ties, and it was overall very, very sketchy situation. But we are finding out a little bit more of the kind of behind the scenes and what was going on in the Trump offices and around his personal circle at that time.
Yeah.
And to not really my surprise, apparently everything we suspected was really true. I mean, Trump...
Not a surprise.
Trump went along with his comments about the election being stolen, despite everyone in his inner circle telling him that that wasn't true, that he really couldn't do these things that he was saying, and he would get mad and try to just do it anyway.
Well, because Trump is a businessman first. I mean, he had no business, for lack of a better word, in politics.
No, and as a businessman, you don't get told no. Or, like, because
you're surrounded by yes men.
Well, you're surrounded by yes men, but if you're the boss, it's kind of like your boss tells you to do something and you make it happen. There's no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Especially when you're Donald Trump and you surround yourself with people who are not the most morally just or
best straight thinkers.
Yeah, or have an altruistic intention more so than a business intention.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of seems like he did run the country in the White House like a business.
I mean, he tried. I mean, some ways, sure. In other ways, it's the government. It's a completely different entity.
Right.
It operates on different systems and different concepts than you can run a business. I mean, he could only take that so far, and I think that kind of hit a wall with him when he's like, wait, I can't just claim that I win, and my supporters can't just go overthrow my vice president because I told them to, and then I can't just get angry at everyone for telling me no.
That is a child mindset.
That's kind of what he did. I mean, we are seeing from these testimonies that a lot of White House aides and Secret Service members are doing that Trump got really angry when he was told he couldn't go to the Capitol. They tried to drive him away, I assume back to the White House, but there were reports of him supposedly trying to like lunge forward and grab the wheel. There were reports of him like getting angry and like throwing food.
What a sight that would be.
Just being very irate at the idea that he could not go join his loyal followers,
his compatriots,
his comrades, and successfully overturn the U.S. government. I mean, it is kind of his own delusions, really. that lead him to a stance to where he thinks like what's the end game? Does he really think he could do that? I mean, like technically, yeah, the president has the military; he can do whatever. But when
he has power for executive orders and the military,
when you see kind of coups like this actually succeed, you need a lot more trust, organizational power, and belief from your kind of people under you,
and internal corruption.
Well, that too, but I think Trump's main hurdle really for successfully like maybe overturning the election, if the people under him were more trustworthy of him and believed in his like overall mission, but they didn't. I mean, they're all politicians, so they stand for nothing.
Yeah.
They stand for whatever the hell they want in order for them to get the next job opportunity, for them to keep paying bills and keep living their fancy lifestyles. They don't have an overall goal, which you kind of need if you want to engage people enough to do something to that magnitude, to where there is no kind of turning back. Because if you see all these kind of Trump aides and like the people in his inner circle all have jobs at like mainstream media sources now. CBS, ABC, Fox News, CNN. They're all in the mainstream. They're all still just out in the political world doing normal things, collecting their $100,000 paychecks, getting lobbying money, and engaging in that political media news cycle, which is a lot safer and more appealing than, oh, let's actually try to overthrow the U.S. government and see wherever the hell that takes us. Like, why would you do that? And why would you do that for Donald Trump if you are anyone in that office? Like, of all people, you trust him to be your guardian and your
their champion.
Their champion, yeah, really, that's your guy.
No.
So of course this was, I mean, never gonna work. I mean, there are conflicts about how mad he actually got, and it's been said that Trump is too girthy to actually lunge forward in the way he was reported to and actually grab the wheel.
I like how the best argument against him being a man-child is that he's too girthy.
Yeah, he's too fat. He eats too much McDonald's. He can't possibly lunge forward in a Secret Service car. You know how big those things are? He was probably 6 feet back from the driver's seat. He's got a 250-pound, 6'3" Trump.
Yeah, I was about to say, isn't he actually tall?
Forward. Yeah, he's a tall guy. I think he's 6'3".
Yeah, he's 6'3".
6'3", 250 pounds or whatever. Like,
that's a lot of man.
That's a lot of man going through that armored Secret Service car.
I'm sure he could find a way
to
get up into that driver's seat.
Yeah.
I don't think being girthy is a good argument here. He's not girthy enough.
I mean,
he's not the type of girth I'm looking for. If you know what I'm saying.
He could always get girthier. I mean,
Joe Biden's girthy in a very different way.
No, he's not girthy at all. You saw him fall off that bike. He's like a little twig.
He's girthy in that he fucks over America really hard with his massive girth. Much like Trump did.
Yes. In the words of the great Nick Lutzko, President Trump won't talk about his ass. He's got such a nice fat ass. And
he's got too
we
big
need
of a
to know
dumpy.
More. It's too big. You know the picture of him playing tennis?
Oh, yes.
Great.
Oh, yes.
Oh, he is quite the specimen.
I miss him for that reason.
He's entertaining, at least. Joe Biden puts me to sleep and won't do anything. But, I don't know. Trump's at least entertaining. Maybe we'll get to see him take the stand at January 6th.
Oh, God.
I know Rudy Giuliani has been subpoenaed, along with, I think, like Mick Mulvaney, some other White House officials, John Eastman, Lindsey Graham.
And they're going to resume hearings next week and probably pull more people.
Next week. We'll see if anything ever comes to this. I do think mostly the point of this trial was to discourage actions like this from happening in the future, which, I mean, it didn't go well at all, so I don't think, like, this is the new Republican Party's MO, to kind of take things violently like this. I don't think that's the direction they're headed. I think they're a lot safer and a lot more successful doing what they've been doing, which is using the strings of power and our weird legislation and our weird governmental systems to control everything. So why would they need to overthrow the government?
They kind of already have. I mean, in a way, they have implanted themselves so deeply, and I mean, not even just in politics, within like we talked about last week, like the whole culture of like Southern Republicans and etc.
Yeah,
it's like they've embedded themselves so deeply. It's a part of our systems. It's part of our culture. It's a part of like America.
No, absolutely. But it is nice for the public to hear from Trump aides, from people in his inner circle, people who really have no reason to lie. Like, sure, it's like, oh, they're gonna get publicity from it, whatever. They all get publicity. They all find their jobs somewhere in the DC news network or whatever. But like, these Secret Service members are all sharing the same story. It all kind of corroborates correctly. It all makes sense from what we know about Trump's behavior and how erratic he has shown us to be.
I mean, a person that eats what is it, like a Big Mac every day, like every single day, like there's no way that's the same man. You can't listen to his opinion and like trust it.
You hating on the Big Mac right now?
No, I'm hating on a person that eats McDonald's every day, every single day for every meal.
It's a lot of,
or nearly every meal, probably. I think you can. I think it went to his brain. The Big Mac sauce.
Hey, I do stand by his decision somewhat too when he hosted. Was it University of Georgia? One of the national championship football teams, and he ordered the McDonald's. I stand by that.
No, that's funny.
I think that's funny. I think it's fine.
No, that's very American. I mean, McDonald's kind of represents America in a way as the largest hamburger chain, which is inherently an American thing. The largest hamburger chain. So it's a fast food place. It's a large international corporation, and it is the largest like fast food burger chain. I think it's a pretty representative of America.
Served. No, for sure. I mean,
and that's why Trump really is our president.
McDonald's is as American as apple pie. They go around from country to country, implant their shitty food and shitty culture and everything, pay minimum wage, and then dominate.
Yeah, pretty much. Sounds exactly like America.
That's America.
I remember, actually, I took a food science class this semester, and we learned a little bit about the history of McDonald's. This is off topic, but it's interesting. The original creators of McDonald's were just like these two brothers, and they were doing pretty good. And then some big business guy with Ray money, Kroc, he comes in and just he like advises them and stuff, and they accept it. But then he starts trying to take over, and he basically, I forget exactly what he did, but he kicked them out. He successfully kicked out the two original creators. They were able to keep the original location, and he just built he took the McDonald's name and the double arches and everything. They were stuck with some previous stuff, and he built a McDonald's right across the street from them and drove them out of business.
Yeah.
The original creators of McDonald's. He just stole the business and then ran them out.
Mm-hmm. It's Michael Keaton.
Yeah. It's fitting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It fits the theme.
I mean, that's what proved to be successful, though. I mean,
clearly.
I mean, Ray Kroc saw the innovation in how quickly food could be served, recognized the predicament many Americans are in, into where they need quick, easy, cheap food options on a readily available basis, and you can expand that near infinitely.
Yeah, and during that time, I feel like it made a lot of sense, and it, was very successful, and it's currently still successful. But I think we're now seeing the consequences of that big boom in hyper capitalistic companies from the U.S.
No, absolutely. It's
largely from the U.S.
I mean, it's annoying to where you can only really get a burger.
Yeah,
that's the only food you really get, especially if you are in a hurry and on your way to work.
Yeah, I will go to McDonald's before work and get I'll get 2 McDoubles just because it's $3.40 and it's fast, and I hate it. It makes me feel like shit, and it's actually pretty good, but I don't like it.
But in a lot of times when like my only alternative at that moment is like just not eating for like and like waiting until I can actually get something better, and
that I mean we could talk about like how it largely affects like lower income people, how like a lot of times that's their only option as they have to work to live.
No, it's
and work so much.
It's about the amount of time you have and the amount of money you have, and poor people have neither.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I mean by we're really seeing the failures of that system now in how it's so deeply rooted in our country. I mean, like you can't go more than a couple miles without seeing a fast food place like McDonald's, Taco Bell, etc.
Yeah. And
if you are a person of lower income, I mean, that's probably your only option if you're working every other hour of the day.
Yeah.
You don't have time to cook like large meals.
Yeah. Or especially if you have like other people to feed, like if you are a working mother and you have children to feed, like how are your children expected to get a decent nutrition? I mean, I'm not blaming, like that's obviously all they have. I'm not blaming the mother in this hypothetical. Right. But like, yeah, of course you're just gonna stop and get them fast food on your way home from your double shift. Like, yeah, you don't want to cook. Why the fuck would you? And that's
you would have to literally get home from working all day and immediately have a plan for cooking a dinner. You'd have to have all the ingredients already bought. Like there's a lot of work goes into planning every meal and having the ingredients and then cooking it.
Yeah.
Especially if it's not.
And there's cleaning.
I mean, you have to know how to cook. You have to know what to cook.
Yeah.
There's a lot to cooking. I mean, we've learned. We've had to figure it out.
College kids trying to figure out how to cook stuff.
Having a rice cooker helps a lot, but not every low-income family can afford a nice rice cooker like we have.
I mean, you can get a cheap rice cooker.
I mean, yeah, but this one's from
Japan.
And this one.
I like the official Otaku rice cooker.
It sings to us.
It does.
It sings Twinkle Twinkle Little Star every time we start a pot of rice.
Zorushi, if you're listening, sponsor us, please.
Zorushi, your rice cookers are amazing. You're probably not listening to this because this is in English and we get 12 views, but
please sponsor us.
We want money.
That'd be incredible. We're like the next Uncle Roger with the.
Imagine if we get
with the rice cooker sponsorship.
We get a sponsorship and then we can upgrade our podcast.
Yeah.
But Zojirushi is our only sponsorship for the entire.
Hey, I'm fine with that. I'd be fine with that. So we got a little bit off topic.
A little bit.
So, in conclusion with the January 6th stuff, Trump most definitely knew that he had no basis for his election fraud claims. He knew what he was doing when kind of agitating and riling up his base at the time and sending them to the Capitol. And he got frustrated when he couldn't join his followers, and when he was stopped by the people who were supposed to be the ones listening to him, the people on his side. And for once, they actually told him, no, it's over, you can't do this. And he got mad and frustrated, and through the following weeks, we will see what actually comes of this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anything major is going to come of it. I mean,
no.
It's not like he can be impeached.
No.
And he's not going to be, like, criminally charged.
I mean, he committed treason. Like, they have the proof for that at this point. It's nothing's gonna come of it. But
if it does, I will be very surprised and glad. But I'm glad that the justice actually prevails in this country. But I doubt that.
Yeah. Our next topic is coincidentally about people who actually did get thrown in prison, which is kind of plus for a change, I guess.
I mean, in this situation, it's definitely a plus.
Yeah, and that's going to be Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine. Anyway.
Ghislaine Maxwell and R. Kelly actually both were sentenced this past week.
Yeah.
I believe Ghislaine Maxwell got 30 years. R. Kelly got
20.
Or was it 20 years? And then R. Kelly got 30 years?
Let me fact check that. But either way,
multiple decades for both of them. I do find it interesting how R. Kelly got a longer sentence than Ghislaine. Let's start with the R. Kelly news because I kind of have more to say about Ghislaine.
Okay.
But so yeah, R. Kelly of course had multiple. I guess was convicted now of having multiple interactions with underage girls and kind of coercing them into sexual acts.
He did get 30 years, and she got 20 years. He got 10 more years than a prolific sex trafficker.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know how many counts was R. Kelly convicted of sexual crimes. I mean, they both were guilty of coercing
pretty bad shit
and grooming underage girls into sexual acts. And I'm glad that R. Kelly finally got justice. I feel like it's been like years since these stories were first coming out about like R. Kelly like peeing on girls and stuff. I remember that being like the original joke. I think was like R. Kelly like peeing on girls, and then all this shit came out about him.
No shame as long as it's not
consensual,
a 15-year-old girl and it's consensual.
As long as it's consensual between two adults. We don't kink shame here, as we say.
Oh no. Yeah, I can't find how many counts of what.
Yeah, whatever. R. Kelly, not a good dude. No. Glad that he is away. Glad that he will be punished for his grooming of young girls. I think the Ghislaine Maxwell trial and her conviction is a little more complicated. 20 years sounds kind of light for me. If we are talking about the wide implications of what she was most likely involved in, what she has now been convicted of being involved in, and with considering
the late Epstein,
and considering that in many ways this was also a trial of Jeffrey Epstein because he could never face trial
because he video gamed himself in prison.
He did video game himself. Actually, we can't say that anymore. The courts actually know.
Well, okay, that's if like you're incriminating yourself.
Yeah,
but this is
but that's no longer legally avoidable. But
this is kind of lame. I mean, you can't. This is
in Minecraft.
They're suffocating freedom of speech again.
Absolutely.
This is ridiculous. Anyway,
but in many ways, this was a trial of Jeffrey Epstein as well because he could never testify, and I think 20 years is fine as long as there is further persecution of the people who the government knows are involved and is not made public. A lot of people are against it being made public or are against it being kept secret and think that like the flight logs and all that stuff should be public. I'm fine with the FBI keeping it private as long as they prove to us that they continue to prosecute and continue to uncover this sex trafficking scheme that does seem to be international, probably a top 3 sex trafficking ring in the world operating. I would have to guess. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely more.
That type of shit needs to be. That's the type of shit we need police and like actual. What's the word I'm looking for? Like a robust
accountability,
police and accountability system. That's the only reason we would need that.
Yeah, I mean,
shit like that, like massive international sex trafficking rings. That's what needs to be taken down.
Yeah, it's kind of like the comical example of crime.
Yeah,
it's just like if you can get to like the most criminal activity possible, it's like international sex trafficking.
Yeah. Oh God.
So, but we will see what the I assume FBI does with the information that they got from the trial, with the names they have. Mm-hmm. I hope that justice is served on all fronts and that they are keeping it private for good reason and that they are hiding their cards, making sure they can do this case justice. But there is also an argument to be made that the government is going to kind of just kick this under the rug, end it with Ghislaine, kind of call it a day, and let bygones be bygones.
I really would not be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either, but I hope it doesn't happen. I mean, you're kind of just asking for more work down the road when the next thing gets uncovered. But
when's the last time you could have placed faith in the U.S. government to actually do something good for the people and good in general, something that actually has benefits?
That's fair. I mean, yeah.
I don't have any faith in the U.S. government to have genuine intentions.
Yeah, especially considering how deep this most likely goes and how many powerful people are most likely involved.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see if more comes out of this, or maybe we'll just see Ghislaine get out in 7 years for good behavior.
Further failure of the U.S. justice system.
Yeah, I don't know. I have faith that maybe in this front. I mean, it's such kind of like on the high end of criminality that it's like it's a layup for them to kind of prosecute. Like they're not like the U.S. government's not going to get any bad press from this until like in general, of course, like politicians and stuff could come out as individuals, but I think if the U.S. government as like a unit continues to prosecute down this route, it's just going to be good for them.
Well, I hope it happens, and I hope it's successful, and they actually get the right people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, do you want to talk about some true crimes and the real victims here?
I think we do.
And that's conservatives being censored on social media.
Indeed.
For being transphobic and hateful.
This is such an anti-free speech country. Like, we just suppressing all these great thinkers. Like,
I hate when private companies violate my First Amendment rights to be hateful. Yeah.
No, I think hate speech should be allowed. I think bullying and harassment excessively should be promoted and allowed. So, if you hadn't heard, one of the greatest thinkers of our time, Jordan B. Peterson, was recently banned off, or suspended indefinitely, probably, off of Twitter.
Suspended with terms, and we'll get into that.
Oh, okay. I actually did not. And the reason is because he openly was transphobic and hateful towards Elliot Page, who had transitioned. He called... Didn't he say that it was don't you remember when pride used to be sinful?
Oh yeah, that was in his response video. So the original tweet, he misgendered Elliot Page, dead named him, referring to his pre-transition name, and then called the doctor who did his top surgery a criminal. So that was the original tweet that got him suspended, and then so he was suspended, and he had to delete the tweet. That is what he had to do. And instead of that, he came out with this like 20-minute long YouTube video where he just cries and says he'd rather die than delete the tweet, and just debates the Twitter terms of service for not being direct. I mean, and it says like you cannot target people based on race, gender, sexuality, protected group stuff, which he clearly did in terms of Elliot Page.
And he's like, I clearly haven't broken any violation, when he had just explicitly stated that he broke the specific violations with homophobia and like harassment. And
like he clearly was transphobic in that he would have not tweeted what he did about Elliot Page if he was not a trans person, and he would have not attacked him if that was not the case.
I mean, as one of the most prolific thinkers of our time, he has been vehemently anti-trans for a long time, and some would argue he popularized the thought, or he at least brought it to the mainstream, the conversation to the mainstream from the transphobic side perspective to the mainstream.
I mean, he was a Canadian professor who got popular because of a local Montreal bill or something for, I think, transgender bathrooms, transgender bill, right. And he came out super hard against it, and that's what first gave him popularity 6 years ago or something, and he's been riding a pseudo intellectual transphobic wave ever since.
I mean, that's the only reason he's famous.
I mean, yeah, he tells stinky teenagers to make their bed and gives them very basic, somewhat helpful advice. and everyone like proclaims he's like a genius.
Oh, and then he
is transphobic.
Yeah, and then he spews out a bunch of like pseudo intellectual garbage that just is trying to make him. He's the most boring person ever. He just
women can't wear makeup in the workplace. The Dragon of Chaos.
The Dragon of Chaos. Oh, I hate that man.
Yeah, Kermit the Frog. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, he preaches like a false god ideology, and it has been successful and it works, but it's been like off the backs of like just hate. And like whenever he's in the news, it's always for these reasons of someone wouldn't let him be hateful. And conservatives just love it when that happens to them.
Oh yeah, no, and then he references sin, and so I mean he's clearly driven by some degree by his religious standpoints as well, and it's very telling that he's just,
but
with his Christian values, I mean, like or whatever he is.
But at the same time, he intellectualizes it so much.
Oh yeah, I know.
Like beyond comprehension, and it's ridiculous when he tries to kind of make his religion sound more philosophically important or grand and moral than it is.
Well, he tries to make a lot of things sound really important, especially in one of his books when he started talking about his grandmother's pubes. And one of his he had a dream about his grandmother.
Maps of Meaning.
In his Maps of Meaning book, he recited one of his dreams where his grandmother was naked before him, stroking her pubic hair or some shit, and had an artist's brush fashioned from this pubic hair and was doing. It was bizarre. It's bizarre, and he thought that it was such a fantastic piece of literature that he published it, and that's crazy. A crazy person writes about their grandmother's pubic hair dream thinks it's a good thing to write about.
He also went on I think he's off the all meat diet, but he was on like a salt pepper steak diet. That's it.
And that's not healthy.
That's not.
I don't care
healthy.
what you say. We are not carnivores. That's not healthy.
You can't do that. I mean, he almost died. Like this is not like a healthy person, like mentally or physically.
No.
I mean, he had a pretty bad benzo addiction at one point, which I mean, benzo addiction is very, very serious. But
of course. But it's just kind of funny when
he went cold turkey, almost died.
Yeah.
And then his daughter went out to like a Belgian nightclub, got COVID, gave it to him. He almost died again, and that was like in a span of like a month. Michaela Peterson, the true Dragon of Chaos.
Indeed. Almost brought the Dragon of Chaos to Jordan Peterson's face and brought him to the grave.
Yeah. God. But, so yeah, he's off Twitter now for the time being. I mean, like a month ago, he said he was going to leave Twitter. And then he just did what we all do and just tweeted even harder.
Isn't he he has patients. He's a psychiatrist, right?
He's a doctor.
I don't exactly know what he is specifically, but he talks about how he has patients, and I feel so bad for his patients.
Like you come in for therapy one morning and it's just Zach for Dr. Peterson, and he's coming here and it's it's Jordan Peterson just on his phone tweeting about the Dragon of Chaos and how the liberals don't like him and they kick him off Twitter because he's transphobic.
I think your problems are from you not showering and you talking to too many women.
No, it's the women who are the problem because they have too much sexual capital. This is what he believes. He's he believes in Marxism, but for sexuality and for sexual capital. Like he's like there's top men and they're getting all the sex, and that's a problem for the majority of the men. And then the women, it's their fault too, because they're not engaging in traditional lifestyles, so they're having a bunch of sexual partners too, but it's all at the top. This is what he believes.
So he thinks that there are sex elitists. There's that are hoarding all of the sexual wealth in America.
Yes.
Which is women.
Yes. I believe this is Jordan B. Peterson.
He's created his own,
and that's what he sells to incels.
Form of conspiracy pipeline.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And it's the Dragon of Chaos.
It is the Dragon of Chaos. So, yeah, he was suspended off Twitter, and then Dave Rubin tweeted about that, and then he got suspended, and now everyone's just going to be suspended.
Didn't Jordan Peterson actually end up... He said that he would rather die than delete his tweet. He literally explicitly said that, and then he deleted his tweet.
I don't know if he deleted
I heard he deleted his
Well, is he
tweet.
back on Twitter?
I don't think he's back on Twitter.
Well, that was the thing, is Twitter would unban him when he deleted his tweet. He also did say at one point if he got thrown in jail for his his backlash to the transgender bill that he got popular for a while ago, like he would go on like a hunger strike. Like he loves just making up like things that he would like die for or things that he would like seriously believes in, but he stands for nothing. He never has and never will.
He stands for hatred, and I mean he's fully gone off the deep end.
I hope he's making money from this at least, because if not, he's just a piece of shit.
Yeah. Well, do you know when this tweet was? Because his last tweet was on June 28th. So I think he actually did delete it.
Well, Twitter probably removed the tweet. I think you have to acknowledge what you've done is bad, and then be like, okay, fine, I'll remove the tweet.
Oh, I see. I had heard from someone that he ended up actually removing the tweet, but either way, I'd rather die than delete a stupid hateful tweet.
Just don't misgender people. It's not that hard.
I don't understand why conservatives can't understand why trans people should exist. I mean, irregardless of their beliefs, irregardless of if they don't like them for existing or whatever, why do they try so hard to make them not exist? I don't get it. They're just people that are trying to exist.
Yeah, it's really weird how many conservatives go out of their way to misgender and harass trans people and then claim victim when it happens, because all these instances you see when people get mad at Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, and Tucker Carlson, all these conservative figures, when they are actively transphobic, they know whoever the transgender person, they know their identity. They know that Elliot Page, who used to be Ellen Page and then transitioned female to male, they know that he is a man now, but they still will refer to him as their dead name or refer to them by improper pronouns because they don't want to, or because they think it makes a statement, because they're exercising their free speech or whatever. But ultimately, it just results in them being hateful and then complaining when people get mad at them for being hateful.
They're making up problems. I mean, so I remember from the Jordan Peterson video that we were just talking about, he had mentioned, he was talking about Elliot Page, and he was like, so Elliot, Ellen, he, she, every single time he referred to them. Yeah. And he was like, oh, it's just too complicated. I can't say it right. Yes, because you're intentionally doing that. Yeah, it is not complicated.
They intentionally act like it's this super complicated thing where you have to jump through hoops and be on tippy toes in order to properly gender someone, when that's not the case at all.
You just have to be a considerate person.
You just have to be a considerate person. You identify people with it a lot of times how they want to be identified as, a lot of times without even knowing. And if you accidentally misgender someone and they correct you and say, hey, I prefer these pronouns or whatever, you say, sorry, my bad, I will try better, and then you will refer to them as what you want to be called, of what they want to be called. It's really not that hard.
I mean, you call yourself by your own name, right? You say, my name is my name, and they call you by your name. Mm-hmm. They don't just go and say, no, I'm not going to call you by your name. I'm actually going to call you what I want to call you.
A lot of people go by their middle names, and when they introduce them,
call you by your middle name.
Why? That's not your name. That's not what your dad named you.
That's your identity. Bullshit. Your identity is your own. That you're able to tell your preferences in your identity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your identity is a fluid thing that is from your creation.
And it's ridiculous that conservatives act like that's not the case, and it's based on some idea of an objective truth. It's all bullshit. There is no objective truth. It's all a way to social constructs like this.
No, it's all a way to hide that they just jerk off over the Bible and think that should be didn't Lauren Boebert, she came out and was just like, let's get rid of this separation of church and state bullshit or crap, and she's like, we need more Christian values in the government.
Yeah, I mean, imagine a Democrat like attacking a constitutional foundation of that magnitude in a similar way. Like Republicans can do it casually because they have a monopoly on alleged supposed patriotism and like Americanism, and nobody's ever gonna like question a Republican's commitment to the Constitution or a Republican's commitment to the founding fathers or whatever. It's a lot easier to do that with Democrats. So Republicans can be like, oh, let's just get rid of this separation of church and state, and nobody will, like, the constitutionalists won't come after them.
Yeah,
like, it's ridiculous.
I genuinely think that like that mindset and that way of thinking is like destroying our country. I mean, our country is like not great anyway.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
but it's I feel like it's destroying all hope, in at least in my head, of a progressive future.
Mm-hmm. In my opinion, the disconnect that a lot of people can't see with conservatives, and that conservatives are most of the time given the benefit of the doubt in terms of like American patriotic values, since these things are seen as a default good and a default okay. On the right, you have to deviate so far out to where you have to be like considered like a Nazi before people will start to question your like American kind of value beliefs.
And that's another uniquely American thing.
Oh, I mean, absolutely.
Like if you came out with the same conservative politics from the U.S. in I don't know, someplace in Europe, mm-hmm. you would be considered a Nazi.
I mean, yeah, a lot of it varies depending on where you are. I mean, the UK has had its fair share of right-wing kind of movements coming up, but
I mean,
no, but it is a result of Ameribrain. It's a result of American ideology that kind of has expanded outwards.
I mean, I heard someone say that like we as a country are far closer to real fascism than democracy, and I started really thinking about it, and it's very true. I mean, like we have our unionization rate is so fucking abysmally low compared to other countries, mm-hmm. and government or the businesses control our lives. I mean, like very wealthy mm-hmm. elites control our lives. That's kind of fascist. I mean, yeah, we don't. Donald Trump isn't like kind of the spearhead for it anymore. But I mean, it's kind of getting there.
I mean, in a lot of ways, we have a fraud of a two-party system. Yeah. Both parties work at the behest of capital interests mm-hmm. and capital business, and the real working class and the majority of Americans will never have their voices shown in a proper capacity. And in that way, the U.S. has never had a democracy, and won't without radical change.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, it doesn't even the laws that are being passed and everything that's being voted on isn't reflecting the true like opinions of the citizens, and it's getting to a point where like not a single popular vote actually wins. And it's bizarre that we have this system that will consistently favor the people that are just in the minority, by such a large margin. Like it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. And before we end today's episode, I do want to briefly talk about the shooting that happened on the 4th of July at Highland Park, which is a suburb outside of Chicago. Mm-hmm. A gunman, I believe, killed 7 people.
I believe so.
I believe 7 people, and around 24 were injured. Happened at a 4th of July parade. It's really tragic. There were a lot of conflicting reports around like the political ideology of the shooter. Like he is a skinny white kid with a bunch of like face tattoos and crazy hair.
Yeah.
A lot of people were saying that he was a socialist because he had a rose tattoo or something. There have been a lot of conflicting reports. Yeah, it's been very weird. There is no concrete evidence.
Is proper. That's the conservatives using it as propaganda.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they do this every time when there's a mass shooting. I mean, at Uvalde, the first
they
people...
They claimed it was a trans person, and it just was not.
With no basis, but... So, the right-wing reaction has, of course, been jump on this and claim it be a...
Socialism.
Oh, leftist. We don't know.
Irregardless,
it's a crazy person. Whose political ideology should not be respected in any way, shape, or form.
It's probably not reflective. Well,
I mean,
irregardless, they were a bad person.
Yeah,
and they were apprehended without injury.
I mean, there is of course always that whenever there's a white shooter and versus whenever there's a black shooter, and there's always usually some form of injury. Or whenever, like there was during the BLM riots, that leftist who was literally assassinated. Can you pull up the name of that guy?
Wait, what was it?
This is a BLM leftist assassinated. This guy. I
don't know how to spell assassinated. Yeah.
What was his name?
This was during Portland, the Portland protests.
Mm-hmm.
Michael
Douglas? No,
Raynell.
Yeah, Michael Raynell.
A self-described Antifa supporter was filmed shooting the man. Wait.
So this guy was out on he was accused of murder and self-defense or whatever. But he was like legitimately like assassinated by the state, and like the police came like to his house with no intention of apprehending him. They were like we're planning on killing him.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had not heard about this. That's okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So there is always kind of that comparison that can be made whenever we talk about like mass shooters of them, usually, of course, if they are of a minority group, if they are of a more obvious leftist political leaning, they are most definitely usually always treated worse.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say specifically with black people being shot, unless you have more to talk about the Parkland.
You mean Chicago?
Yeah, sorry.
Highland Park.
Highland Park. That's right. That's what I meant. Do you have anything else to say about that?
No.
Well, if you hadn't heard, there was a black man, an unarmed black man named Jalen Walker, who was shot 60 times by the police recently. 60 times. An unarmed black guy.
Didn't he live?
With 60... Did he? No, it was fatal.
Oh, okay. That must have been a different black person that got shot a bunch of times who I believe was still in the hospital.
This was June 27th. There were 13 officers, and they shot him 60 times. That seems a little excessive, if you ask me. I don't know. I might be going on a limb, but this seems a little excessive.
I mean, but it follows with police protocol, which is if police officers are taught to shoot to kill, and you shoot and you unload your entire clip.
I mean, we could make an entire episode on how corrupt the police are. In fact, maybe we should. But
that's a good idea. Maybe we will.
Yeah, they are. They're the way that they're trained. The way that like we could make an entire video on specifically how police are trained. Absolutely. And how that's corrupt. And it's bad. They're definitely taught to shoot to kill, and they aren't really taught how to de-escalate. They're only taught to escalate, and it's what causes a lot. I mean, probably most of the problems with the police today. I mean, and it's supported by government funding as well. Mm-hmm. It's not making it any better. I mean, that just makes it worse. With the training they have, given access to military arms, of course, absolutely, the shit's gonna happen.
I have more to say on the police, of course, but we are running out of time.
We are out of time,
and I think we should save that for a later episode.
I agree.
But thank you all for listening to this week's episode of the Hammer and Pickle podcast.
And catch us next week.
Yes, with another
banger of an episode.
Another pickly episode. Okay, bye.